Hello, good evening, and welcome back to the Bundesliga show brought to you by Over the Bar. As you can tell, it's just myself tonight, but we're very, very lucky and fortunate to be joined by Feargal of Halb Vier Fanzine. So, first and foremost, Feargal, welcome back to the show. How are you doing?
Very well, thank you. Nice, good to be back, and nice to see you again. Yeah, really enjoying the start of football has returned, and fingers crossed in 2 weeks I'm back to Germany for a few games. So really looking forward to it.
Lovely. What games are you going to be taking in?
Let's see. The weekend. It's the weekend just before the international break. So Fortuna Cologne. Then the Saturday doubleheader, Waldorf Mannheim and Eintracht Frankfurt, and back up north to Wattenscheid on the Sunday. So yeah, can't wait. Bit of Bundesliga and a bit of lower league grounds, which is probably the part I like most about German football.
Yeah, that's perfect. Before we talk to you, Fergal, a little bit more about Halb Vier. So for everyone that's watching tonight and tuning in, tonight is our first proper guest show that we've done, A, this season, and B, that we're kind of going to be doing from this season onwards, where we have obviously had brilliant guests in the past, Fergal included, but we've always had a bit more of a focus on the games, and we haven't really made the most of our brilliant guests. So from henceforth, the guest show will be all about the guest, which is fantastic. So really looking forward to getting into a bit more in depth about Halb Vier, and we'll get some details up about that in a moment. Of course, just a little bit of admin to get ourselves started. So this season, as per usual, we are indeed in partnership with Bundesliga Boxes. Just a shout out to them that batch 22 sales for batch 22 are ending tonight at 10 p.m. So don't miss out on that. Get yourself over to the Bundesliga Boxes website and get yourself a nice, genuine, authentic German football t-shirt, the best in the business. And that's, of course, why we're in partnership with them. If obviously if you're tuning in, please give this video a like. Do comment along if you're watching. If you've got any questions for Feargal, please do give us a shout and press the red button to subscribe. Our subscribers are really going in a nice direction, which is brilliant. So please do press that button so you don't miss out on any of our fantastic content. So as mentioned, obviously we're going to kind of chat to Feargal as kind of time goes on in this show. But what we'll do is first just like to get your thoughts and opinions, Feargal, on match week 3. So we'll just talk about it for a few minutes. So first and foremost, obviously Bayern smashing 7, Leverkusen still struggling. What are your main thoughts? What did you pick out from match week 3?
Well, I suppose I hate to say, but it looks like match day 3, and I think the league is as good as over.
Oh God!
Bayern it was a complete performance on Saturday. Bearing in mind, last season they lost 4-2 at Bochum, but they were imperious on Saturday. First 3 goals coming from guys just playing their first game of the season. 6 goal scorers in total. It's the strength they have in depth it's awesome. And I suppose there's literally nothing. The only thing that maybe could stop them is potentially a run to the Champions League final. Maybe they take one eye off the Bundesliga, but I think Bayern, even with one eye off the Bundesliga, sadly probably too good for the opposition. Dortmund had their heads held high, but then Dortmund being Dortmund, total self-destruct.
That was crazy.
Yet again. I suppose last week they scored 3 late goals against Freiburg and they didn't deserve to win. So it was a case of deja vu on Saturday, like what, 89th minute, coasting 2-0, and don't think anyone in the Westfalenstadion thought for any minute that they weren't going to be but on 9 points at the end of the day.
Yeah, absolutely. That man, Ollie Burke, come in and absolute flames. He did my boy Stuttgart out of 3 points last week, and now he's doing the last-minute job again.
He would have thought it his second time in the Bundesliga, and he's got a really good start to the season. I was just doing a bit of a research for my appearance tonight, as you do, and I saw an incredible stat by a German journalist. I hope I don't butcher his surname. Florian Reinenke, who also appears on Talking Football podcast.
Sure.
So he said, out of the last 7,220 games in the Bundesliga, when a team was winning 2-0 in the 88th minute or later, 7,216 times the team ahead went on to win. 5 games ended in draws, and only once did a team 2-0 down in the 88th minute win a game. And lo and behold, that was on Saturday with Werder Bremen. Yeah.
What stat? Love that. Bringing the stats to the show. Love that, Feargal. Yeah, very good. Any player that you'd like to pick out that either impressed you this week or has had a really good start to the season?
I suppose the forward line for Union Berlin, they're 7 points. The record atonement Alton der Forsterei is crazy good. I think the best part of 2 years they've only lost 2 games against Dortmund, against Bayern Munich, so there's nothing wrong about that at all. Sheraldo Becker and Jordan Sabitcheo, 4 goals between them in the first 2 home games this season, and they look immense and really kind of 2 up front, great compliment. So the future looks promising for Union. Who knows? They could become a top 6 regular, definitely with that home form, if they can sneak points on the road now and again.
Yeah, absolutely. I think just before we move on and actually have a proper chat about Halb Vier, another shout out for a second away win for Mainz as well. Like, if they can figure out that away form, then they'll be immense.
Indeed, and that's despite missing a penalty as well. I think the first time in 9 seasons they missed a penalty. Yeah, 2-1. Draw in their home game against Union last week, and 2 wins on the road, and largely unheralded team. But who knows what this season could bring for them?
Absolutely.
I suppose the other team that's as impressed at the start is Gladbach. Don't think many people, when Daniel Farker started this season, they thought, sacked by Norwich, is he capable of doing the job in the Bundesliga? But 7 points after 3 games and they sit second. I suppose in their case, it's been consistency. He's been lucky to have the starting 11 for the last 3 games, and they won 1-0 on Friday night, and should have been 2. I don't know if you saw it, but they got a penalty late on, and it was literally 3 of them fighting over who was going to take it. Chiron, player who scored the first penalty, and Jonas Hoffmann, who won the battle and subsequently went on to miss the penalty. But he won't be taking them for the rest of the season.
Well, he was in my fantasy team alongside Aaron Martin, so they both missed penalties for me at the weekend, so much to my frustration. Interesting to hear your thoughts on who's impressed you so far. So without further delay, let's get into Halb Vier then. So for anyone that didn't see the show that we did with Feargal, was it 2 seasons ago, 1 season ago?
Definitely over 12 months ago. I can't remember what issue was out, but it was quite a while ago.
It was, and we had a good chat then, but I think it's nicer to get into the details of things tonight. So for anyone that's new to the show or is tuning in again and didn't see that, so Feargal is the editor-in-chief of Halb Vier Fanzine, which is a fanzine on German football, so everything German football really, or anything German football for an English-speaking audience. Right now, issue 10 of Halb Vier is out on the website, of which you can get copies in analog and digital versions. Am I right there, Feargal?
Yeah, that's perfectly correct. Issue 10 came out towards the end of the season, back end of May. Issue 12, busily writing the last piece for inclusion, hopefully off at the printers middle of this week, middle to end of this week, and issue 11 should be out early September.
Lovely.
Yeah.
Good news then for all your subscribers and
yeah, I've had a few subscribers saying when's the next issue out.
Yeah.
So it's 4 times a year. We try and do it August, September, one before Christmas, then February, March, and then one at the end of the season. So 4 times a season doesn't sound a lot, but believe me, there's a lot of work and hard graft that goes into them. So when it's your kind of your pet project on the side and a bit of a passion, yeah, it's very good.
Sure, good stuff. So yeah, so you release usually about 3. Well, you like to do 3 or 4 a year, don't you?
Yeah.
And so yeah, all the details are flashing across the bottom of the screen to follow. Feargal is in Halb Vier on Twitter. It's on the banner below, and indeed is the website. So go check that out and get yourself an issue, a copy of issue 10. So do you want to just run us through? So obviously the fanzine is German football. So that's obviously encompassing a lot, Feargal. Yeah. So it's basically everything or anything in between Bundesliga all the way down to regional Liga.
Yeah, regional Liga and below Crisis League, Oberliga, and anything really. I think it started literally issue 1 appeared a week before the kind of onset of COVID, although we didn't know that at the time. And it stemmed out really. I enjoyed going to 3 or 4 times a season, going over to matches in Germany, and I noticed there was an awful lot of people from the UK going over to Germany to watch games, and there was nothing really in kind of English speaking for them. Obviously, yeah. Borussia Dortmund, Bayern Munich were featured a lot in the mainstream English media, and perhaps when an English or Scottish club met a Bundesliga team in a European fixture, there might have been a little bit about them, but not much. So I thought was an interest out there in people who interested in German football but couldn't access any kind of writing in English. And I assumed naively it'd be largely for the English, UK stroke Irish market, but very popular in Canada and Norway.
Yeah.
2 places which I never expected to be an interest in German football, and surprisingly in Germany as well. Quite a few people, buy it in Germany.
Yeah, well, it seems to be a taste for it, certainly in North America, we found in terms of the audience that's reached out to us and guests indeed that we've had on the show as well. So that's very interesting to hear. So moving on from exactly what Halb Vier is. So do you want to just kind of touch on a little bit in regards to issue 10? So maybe some of the highlights or things that you particularly enjoyed about writing
of course. Issue 10, one of my, obviously, there's a lot to be said positive about German football. The cheapness of the tickets most time, the atmosphere, the beer that you can drink a beer after the game standing on the terrace. But one of my favorite parts of German football is the Kutte, those kind of heavy metal waistcoat when you see middle-aged men with mullets with literally 50, 60 embroidered patches on the back of their sleeveless denim jacket. So we did a really nice feature on Kuttes in issue 10. I think it was spread over four or 5 pages. So numerous photos of people kindly shared with us of those Kuttes taken at games. So much so that I thought somewhere in the back of my wardrobe I had a Levi's denim jacket going back about 25 years. And lo and behold, I have done. I've taken off the sleeves now, and I'm starting on my own pet project.
Oh, lovely.
Yeah.
So the Kuttes, so they're just like a collection then of obviously the person individually just going from ground to ground and kind of taking these kind of souvenirs and just adding them up.
No, it's mainly their club. At the back of it, you have like a large kind of centered patch, and then loads of smaller ones. It's usually expressing their love for their club, screaming obscenities at their local rivals, and fairly graphic as well. And then which is common in Germany, the Freundschaft, the friendship with other clubs. Most Kutas then will have kind of patches of where the friendship they have with that club. So
Lovely stuff.
Hopefully, when I'm back on in 12, 18 months' time, I'll be able to wear my coat and see how it's got on. So, yeah, issue 10 as well. I think we had a very important article from Sarah Steinhoffel, who's an advocate for mental health and mental well-being. And she set up a website, she's a Borussia Dortmund fan and has found football as a way of kind of coping with well-being issues. Sure. So we're very glad to feature that and give her charity and those of her friends more prominence.
Lovely. Yeah, absolutely. Really important topic. That's certainly been in the news and the forefront of our thinking, certainly in particular since COVID really hit the UK, and mental health has certainly been a really prominent thing since then. So that's a lovely thing to have put into issue 10. Any other shout outs for anything else to watch out for in issue 10, just to kind of stir the juices?
I think probably the favorite thing I like most is, I don't know if the readers agree, is the kind of historical pieces.
Yeah.
Delving back into German football 40, 50 years ago, kind of post Second World War, the start of the Bundesliga. So many amazing stories to tell. So there's a couple of historical pieces there, and that's going to be replicated in issue 11, which issue 11 has said it is going to print this weekend. Issue 1 featured Joe Bryant, Away Day Joe, who builds the Lego ground. So we thought it was only good to revisit Joe 2 years later, see how he's come on and how many more grounds he's built. So we have a nice photo essay on all the 17 Bundesliga grounds I think he's created out of Lego, which is very impressive.
Yeah.
And he just saw on his Twitter page today, he's back. Obviously, COVID stopped him and his father going over to Germany. So he's back going to Freiburg this weekend for the first time in over 2 years. And he's presenting his Freiburg Lego Stadium to the club. So well done, Joe, there.
Yeah, absolutely. Really big fan of what Joe does. So that's excellent for him. Right then, well, I think it'd also be nice to kind of chat through a little bit about kind of like the highlights that you've encountered so far along your journey of creating Halb Vier and where you've got to. So I've asked you a little bit about issue 10, some nice things that to watch out for that. But what about maybe giving us a couple of your top 3, top 5 articles or pieces that you've worked on so far? I'm sure it's really hard to choose from, but could you give us
it is. You're putting me on the spot now. I worked without there's 10 issues and we average about 16, 17 articles per issue. So that's 170 articles on German football in the past 2 years. So we've covered a lot of ground, but there's an awful lot of stories out there, and there's loads more we can cover. So I suppose it'd be remiss of me where there's serial contributors to the fanzine, people who write regularly without any payment as such. So it's people like that who kind of keep the fanzine going. So I think there's guys like Paul Jobson in Leeds, Alan Deemer, who's from Middlesbrough, but he's based out in Bielefeld. Sascha Krupa in Germany. Jamie Allen, guy from Wolverhampton, living in Galway in Ireland, who supports MSV Duisburg. Good friend Stephen Brand over in Buffalo, New York, and Steve Palmer, who's got a season ticket to the Westfalen Stadion in Dortmund. So there's only a few people. There's loads more who've kind of contributed over to the last 10 issues. And I said, without people like that, the fanzine couldn't exist. I suppose at the outset, I'm having trouble hearing you. At the outset, I was quite concerned. I tried to get a few, we'll say, proper or kind of professional journalists on board. I kind of wanted to give it, while it's called the fanzine, I wanted to be kind of quite a heavy, not heavyweight publication, but I wanted to be taken serious. So it was a guy, Felix Hamsut, who's German-Israeli journalist who based in Cologne, who writes primarily on ultras from a kind of left-wing perspective. So Felix finally wrote for the first 2 or 3 issues, which gave us a kind of a bit of credence from the outset. And equally so, financial journalist Georgie Frost went on a weekend to Borussia Mönchengladbach and Mainz, and I think it was the last weekend before COVID, and she wrote a really good kind of professional, well-researched piece that featured in issue 2. So I thought when people like that of that quality or want to write for the fanzine, I thought, yeah, we've left our mark, and didn't know each issue was a panic. When you've done 2, you're thinking, oh, will we get 3 out? And kind of now that we're on 10 and 11 is just going to the printers, I'm quite confident about the future. I suppose highlights, a guy called Kenny Legg, who's a Weymouth supporter who lives in Dusseldorf at the moment, did a really good kind of photojournalism piece on Borussia Neunkirchen and their kind of old school ground Ellenfeld in issue 2. That was really good, and it looked good. And the fanzine is kind of done on heavyweight paper, and it's all in color, so it kind of gave it a level of authenticity.
Yeah.
So I suppose the only, well, I said there's loads of really enjoyable articles. I suppose the one that left most mark was in issue 8. Paul Jobson wrote a piece on a guy called Alois Bernhard Eisentrager. Everyone thinks Bert Trautmann was the kind of first German to play post-war football in England, Bert Trautmann being the goalkeeper for Man City. However, Alois Bernhard Eisentrager, or Alec as he was known, beat him by a few months. He played professional football for, like Bert Trautmann, he was a prisoner of war who kind of made his life in England after the war, and he ended up playing in Bristol. Both of them made their debut in 1949, but he beat Bert Trautmann to the honour by a few months. And Paul told me a really good story. Sadly, Alec passed away in 2017, age 90. But Paul Jobson had wrote the article, really good article. He sent a couple of copies on to his father in Bristol. Father, who was years ago was a Bristol City season ticket holder, got Paul to write the piece. Paul's father passed on a couple of copies of it to his friends, and lo and behold, one of them ended up with the son of the said Alec Eisentrager, who we wrote about in the first place, who's still living in Bristol. And I think it really meant a lot to him. Never saw his father play live. You can imagine football in the 1940s, 1950s. There's not a lot of stuff out on YouTube about it. So, yeah, I think he was really touched to get a piece written about his father. Yeah. So it's things like that make it, you think, yeah.
Bless me. That's really like touching to hear that it managed to find its way back. Yeah, there's that kind of connection. Yeah, good stuff. Well, just kind of turning back to when you mentioned kind of the articles that you've done maybe on the ultras and things like that. So how have your contributors and yourself been able to gather the history on the ultras? Have you had to work in conjunction with them, so reach out to the groups themselves, and if so, you know, how friendly were they? How easy was it to kind of connect with them and get kind of a little bit more information?
Yeah, as I said, Felix Thompson is a journalist who's kind of got good connections in the kind of ultra culture. I think we've done 3 or 4 pieces now on ultras over the issues. Obviously, there's no images published of the ultras on match day, and equally so, their names are withheld if they request to be. So I suppose they're pieces that you know the person is an ultra, but you couldn't identify him from 40 or 50 other ultras in the group, so they tend to remain anonymous. We haven't done an ultra piece for perhaps a year now, and I suppose it was only at the tail end of the season, obviously post pandemic and the reopening of the grounds. A lot of the ultras boycotted games because issues of vaccination, and a lot of them were kind of anti-vaccination and didn't feel it necessary to have a kind of proof of vaccination to get back in the ground. But they're back in the stadiums for this season now, so I suppose it's only pertinent that perhaps we do it. And thanks for the suggestion. We do another ultra feature in the forthcoming issues. As I said, our most probably popular and definitely the biggest selling issue so far has been issue 5, which was on football in the DDR. So issue 12, which will be our last issue this year out in December, will also be another special. Not saying what on this stage, but will be kind of a one subject issue. So
okay, nice, good stuff. So yeah, that's really interesting. Some really nice stories and highlights there, certainly to pick out from your time of doing Halb Vier. Whilst having you on the show, it would be remiss of me if I did not ask you a couple of questions, as in the lines of we'll start off with your favorite German stadium that you've visited so far, or maybe if it's too hard, you can give me a top 3.
Okay, right. Believe it or not, I haven't been to too many grounds. I think I did a quick count earlier today, and it was only 29. Like, there's people kind of who've been in treble figures who've kind of done the first 3 divisions. I suppose I'm a fan of old school grounds.
Yeah.
So some brilliant old school grounds, especially in Berlin. Moment Stadion, where Tennis Borussia Berlin play. Stadion Lichterfelde. I think I went to see Victoria Berlin play there when they were a Regionalliga club, and Tasmania Berlin play there now.
Yeah.
The icon probably for all ground hoppers, the most famous stadium in Berlin, the Friedrich Ludwig Jahn Sport Park, right in the heart of former East Berlin, within shadows of the Berlin Wall. So, and a big shout out to VfB Lübeck's ground, which I had the pleasure of visiting last season. So I said, lower league old school grounds are probably my favorite of we'll say the larger, bigger capacity grounds. Probably Max Morlock, which is Kaiserslautern, which is very similar to kind of English ground with a kind of steep terrace. And although I'm a fortunate Dusseldorf fan, I'll be killed for saying this, FC Köln's the Mungersdorfer Stadion. Really enjoyed my visit there. It's
good stuff. Well, well, Mark will be pleased with the Max Morlock shout out, at least as a Nuremberg man. That's a nice shout out. Right, well, stadiums is done. Good stuff. We'll move on to this. Will probably quite tricky, but obviously we kind of touched on the ultras a little bit. So, would you say there's a particular set of fans or group of ultras that you've really enjoyed, whether either you've been at the ground at the time and the atmosphere was really welcoming or friendly or electric? Any kind of teams or sets of fans come to mind?
I suppose going back, FC Köln probably had the most atmospheric set of fans.
Yeah.
I saw them in the second division. Not a big game against Sandhausen, but the home end was packed and it was kind of raucous for first all 90 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
Schalke very impressive as well.
Yeah.
So obviously it's kind of the roof comes over the stadium and night game and all the lights go on, so it's very atmospheric. But like even teams like Darmstadt, smaller, maybe only 10,000 there, but kind of raucous atmosphere as well. So yeah, they'd be my favourites. But that's, as I said, don't think there's one ground I've been to in Germany when I've walked away and thought, that's really disappointing.
Yeah. So I guess you've never had an experience where you've not felt welcome. Obviously, that seems to be the real kind of positive about German football, and particularly kind of taking on those cultures.
Yeah, it's like everywhere. As long as you kind of, especially if you're on the home terrace and you don't get out camera taking photos of kind of people, suppose you've got to know where you are, respect their culture and respect them. But no, haven't got myself into bother anywhere so far. So I'm just touching the wooden table here because you never know. And a man of my age, I should be avoiding all that anyway. Yeah. Those years are definitely behind me.
Good stuff. And then a final kind of question on your favourites. Obviously, you mentioned kind of tasting, being able to kind of go to the grounds and have the beers. So have you come across a favourite that you've had locally, or do you have one that you like to just sup whilst you're at home as well?
Ooh, good question. I like a lot of the local beers, the kind of cultures in Cologne, the Alps, definitely the Alps in kind of Dusseldorf. Although there's a kind of big rivalry between both cities, both clubs, and that kind of seemed to spread to both beers as well. If you like Kolsch, you can't like Alt and vice versa. But I like them both, I must admit. Wasn't a big fan of Astra in Hamburg. Astra kind of seems to be the match day beer in Hamburg. But really looking forward to my visits to Bavaria. I haven't been to any grounds in Bavaria yet. It's on the list, and I suppose the kind of best beer in Germany are brewed there. I suppose what's so good about Germany is it's the locality, the sheer individualism of the beer. Each city has kind of got its own main brewery, so every ground you'll have the usual kind of ubiquitous kind of Bitburger or the Becks, but equally so you'll have a kind of local beer that you'll have never seen before, unless you revisit that city, you'll probably never see again. I suppose the only bad experience I had of beer drinking was at Karlsruhe's ground last season.
Right.
I had 3 or 4 beers and I was thinking there's something wrong about this. Doesn't quite feel right. And then someone told me it's non-alcoholic if there's a high-profile game there, which I did. And I was in the Fortuna Dusseldorf in the away end, so I think the non-alcoholic beer was only sold to the away fans.
Wow.
There you go.
Yeah, that's interesting. Okay, nice. Some good selections there for sure. But we kind of looked at your kind of top few stories that you've covered with doing Halb Vier, and we've had a nice run through of things. But maybe just a little question to you, Feargal, about looking forward. Obviously, you've mentioned that you want to get issues 11 and 12 done before the end of this year, which is great to hear. But in general, have you got a certain amount of ambitions or goals for the publication and Halb Vier in general?
I think just to keep the head above water at this moment, sales have kind of flatlined. Maybe from, I said, issue 5, which was sale. The DDR issue has been our biggest seller.
Mm-hmm.
We're kind of putting more money into each issue in terms of kind of print quality and investment. And I said sales are flatlined. Listen, the economy is in crisis. People have a lot of things to worry about out there. I think German football is probably low on their agenda. But hopefully people will stick with us. And if you know a friend who's half interested in German football, just send them our way, and hopefully they'll become a reader. As I said, its costs are going up 10% every issue, and we've tried to keep the price maintained at £6 per issue.
Yeah.
And I suppose the biggest challenge so far has been kind of post-Brexit.
Right.
About 12 months ago, the postal kind of VAT change. So anyone in the EU who now receives a copy of Halb Vier has to pay, or did have to pay, customs charges on it, which were greater than the cost of the issue, which was self-defeating.
Yeah.
So the last few issues, I traveled to the EU to post those copies. Right. Thankfully, for issue 11, we've got a new distributor to be kind of more professional footing. So copies to EU and readers abroad will be posted from the UK, and there's no custom charges applied. So
yeah, interesting stuff.
That's one positive moving forward.
Yeah. Well, what do you think about the kind of the future, or how much kind of live fanzines have in general? Obviously, not just your own one, but do you think they're something that we can try and push forward a little bit more as time goes on?
Yeah, I don't know. I think it's really hard. I saw the Duck, which is a Stoke City fanzine. I think it may have been on issue 70 or so, and he said he's had enough. I suppose our fanzine is different from most kind of club orientated fanzines. People have an opportunity to purchase it outside the ground, whereas ours, obviously, it's all done kind of internet sales, send postal. It's very, very difficult. There's a lot of Mundial kind of went to the wall during COVID. Now they're back. Magazines like kind of Glory, although they've paused, they're now back. It's very hard this moment in time. Thankfully, this is just a sideline for me. It's not my kind of livelihood. For my livelihood, I'd be, I think, slightly more worried. But listen, with the support of good people out there, and met loads of friends along the way, so it's been all worthwhile so far.
100%, and it's great that you've got such a family of writers and contributors, as very rightly kind of mentioned a lot of them earlier on, which is fantastic. Very much like how Over the Bar operate, a really good family of people who kind of operate and kind of publish, whether it's articles or whether we're doing the YouTube channels and stuff like that. So that's really good to hear, and it's been really enjoyable to have you on again, Feargal. So I won't, suck out any more information or any more stories. It's been really good to kind of hear a little bit more about the fanzine and kind of your thoughts on it. So I really appreciate your time this evening. So I think we'll probably bring the show to a close on that note. Obviously, just before we do, a quick reminder again with regards to Bundesliga boxes, batch 22 closes this evening. Sales close at 10 p.m. So go check them out. Get yourself a nice German authentic t-shirt, and of course, make sure you do go and check out Halb Vier. It's obviously, if you want to find them on Twitter, all the details below at Halb Vier UK. And the website to go to is halbvier.bigcartel.com. Get yourself subscribed. Get yourself an issue 10 just before issue 11. Hopefully comes out nice and soon, Feargal. And just again, for everyone that's watching, please do drop the show a like. If you have enjoyed this show in particular, or the way that we've been doing our guest shows from henceforth, please do let us know in the comments. And as always, please do subscribe and try and push us up to around the 650 marker. We're on our way to 1,000. That's the ultimate goal. We really want to push up to that, so that'll really help us get out more and more content. Make sure you check out everything else that's coming out on the channel. our fantasy football shows. We've got a brand new show coming to you on Thursday, so keep your eyes peeled for that. The Football League World Show, we've got Spanish content, just everything. So yeah, make sure you keep your eyes peeled for all that. But all there is left to say is thank you very much, Feargal, for your time this evening, and thank you all for watching.
Cheers, Rory. It was a pleasure.
Cheers.
Thanks very much.
Cheers. Bye-bye.
Bye.